Have you ever followed logic step by step only to watch everything fall apart? Meanwhile, an illogical choice suddenly works like magic. In today's satsang, we dive deep into the mysterious science of thinking. Life often flows not from the mind, but from a space beyond it. From ancient saints to modern lives, we explore stories where logic failed. Is there a hidden intelligence behind the chaos? Can we rise above the mind and align with the divine? Join us on a powerful journey into the heart of consciousness, where the illogical is not foolish, but sacred. Let's begin.
Today's satsang is on the mystery of logical and illogical thinking in life. This is a great and profound science, and you can experience it in your own life, and perhaps you already have. You might not have reflected on it consciously, but many times you must have experienced in life that when you carry out some task using logic, you later realize that it would have been more appropriate to act based on an illogical thought. You act logically, but the completion or fulfillment of the task often happens in the illogical domain. Not every task is like this, but this often tends to be the case. If you observe your own mind, you'll find it is quite complex. It has many segments or layers. But in spiritual science, the mind has been divided into just two segments, the right segment and the left segment, the right mind and the left mind. Our right segment, or the right mind, influences the left nostril, and the left mind influences the right nostril. So, understand it like this: your right brain affects the reverse side, i.e., the left nostril, and the left brain affects the right nostril and the right side of the body. The right brain is considered the spiritual mind, and it influences the left arm and the left nostril. That is why, in the world, you'll notice that people who use their left hand for tasks are fewer. Understand it this way: those who are in a state of spirituality, who function from the heart, who are involved in the internal sciences, usually work more with their left hand. Whereas the left mind operates mainly through the right hand. That's why we, as worldly people, tend to do almost everything with our right hand. Very few people can write with both hands, both right and left. Most of us write only with our right hand. You might be surprised to know that Amitabh Bachchan, a name known to all of you, can write with both hands, right and left. He was born with such a talent. But generally, people use either the right or left hand for all their tasks. Those who use their left hand are called left-handers, and those who use their right hand are right-handers. In sports especially, left-handers are often seen as more talented and successful, because they are somewhat different from the ordinary. Their playing style is also different. Without going deeper into this science, I just want to emphasize this much. Our right brain progresses only in spiritual science, and those who act from the right mind are more connected to the divine. Everything they do flows through the heart. Such individuals don't dive deeply into analysis or complexities. On the other hand, Those who operate from the left mind, and whose work flows through the right hand, tend to analyze everything. They are very logical. They become mathematicians, scientists, they progress more in worldly affairs. But those whose actions come through the left hand and are governed by the right mind, progress more through feelings of the heart. You understand this well. We are all born with a heart. Our mind and brain start developing around the age of 7, when we begin reading and writing. That's when our intellect starts growing. In this way, anyone who is educated tends to analyze everything, follows logic, becomes scientific, and considers themselves highly intelligent. So, just look within your own home. No matter how much analysis you do, because you are highly educated, when you arrive at a certain conclusion, your wife, without knowing all the details, simply says, "What you are doing or thinking is wrong. Do something else." She is influenced by her right mind. And often, you must have noticed that what the wife says, practically and realistically, turns out to be right. Now, she didn't do any analysis. She was illogical. But when the time comes, what she said proves to be true. Now look, we do everything logically. We think, I've done it all. I've studied everything. So, I will surely pass with great marks. But there is one thing you always forget. You are doing everything with your mind, but this world is not just the mind. In this world, there is an unknown factor, which we call the X factor. Something whose arrival cannot be predicted. It is an unknown factor. You studied thoroughly. But on the night before your exam, you got a severe fever, a dangerously high temperature. You couldn't even appear for the exam. And just like that, your entire year of hard work was in vain. This is the X factor that appears in life, and it is illogical. You cannot logically predict this would happen. You planned a wedding very well. Set up the tent, did all the arrangements. There was no forecast of rain, yet a heavy downpour ruined everything. These are all illogical phenomena, thoughtless events. This is the X factor. Recently, you must have seen a plane crash. A young girl left her home and was on her way to the airport. But for some unknown reason, she couldn't reach on time. There could be any number of reasons. She must have left home on time, but when she got to the airport, she wasn't allowed to board the flight. Disappointed, she returned home, and just 10 minutes later, she found out the plane had crashed. She was saved by the unknown factor. That is illogical. Similarly, there was someone sitting inside the crashed plane. Everyone around him burned to death, yet he survived. He jumped out through a window and escaped. That is illogical, thoughtless, something you can't even imagine. You arranged your son or daughter's marriage. Matched all the qualities, checked education, family background. You did everything logically and thoroughly. But within a year, you realized that the two couldn't live together. Or, perhaps, the groom passed away due to some reason. None of your logic or science gave you any warning or indication. All of this is beyond reasoning. You cannot argue about it. It is the X factor. Nothing can be said definitively about it. You must have often heard of such incidents. A person is riding a scooter or motorcycle, and a bird flying above has caught a snake in its beak. Suddenly, the bird drops the snake, and it falls directly onto the person riding the bike, and the person dies on the spot. This is illogical. This is the X factor. No science can tell you about it in advance. Here's an incident that happened right in front of me. A man was leaving for work. It's an old incident, it happened in a village. As he was about to leave the house, he put on his shoes and instantly fainted. When they looked, a small but deadly snake was found inside the shoe. It had bitten him. Now, how can anyone explain such things? You never know what can happen, or when. In the same way, there was a very surprising scientific discovery. You all must have heard of acupuncture therapy. Many people are cured by it. Small needles are inserted into the back, and people recover. Here's a real incident. Two people had a serious fight, and one of them wanted to kill the other. He tried hard but couldn't succeed in harming him. Later, the second person fell seriously ill, to the point that he couldn't recover. The first person then got the perfect opportunity. He thought he could now attack from a distance and finish him. This happened in China. So, he shot an arrow at him from a distance. The arrow hit the sick man in the back. But instead of dying, the man was miraculously cured. Even he was shocked. My back pain was so severe, I couldn't even stand up. I had been bedridden for 2 months. Now, I feel completely fine. He went to the doctor. The doctor told him, "You are perfectly healthy." The man said, "No treatment was given to me. An arrow hit me in the back. Here's the wound." He showed the wound. Then the scientists conducted research, and they discovered something remarkable. Sometimes, knots or blockages form in the body that prevent the flow of energy, causing serious illness. Coincidentally, the arrow had hit exactly the spot where the energy knot was. The arrow pierced the knot, and the energy flow resumed, healing the man. This incident led to scientific research, and eventually the development of acupuncture therapy. which has since cured millions of people and is still widely practiced today. Now tell me, isn't this a completely illogical incident? You cannot apply reasoning or technique to this. Why did it happen? That's the unknown factor, the X factor. There's another great incident of this kind, which occurred in the life of Paramahansa Yogananda. His guru, Sri Yukteswar, was a supremely wise being. Yogananda, from childhood, had a deep interest in spiritual science. But Master Yukteswar wanted him to at least complete some formal education. However, Yogananda would stay in the ashram all the time, immersed in divine meditation. He had no interest in academics at all. Then came the time for exams. At that time, he was in middle school. And he went crying to his guru, saying, "I cannot pass. I haven't studied anything. I don't know a thing." Guruji said, "Just study these 2 or 3 chapters. If you do, you'll pass with minimum marks." Yogananda tried reading them. But he couldn't understand anything. Then Yukteswar said, "Go to that particular student. He will help you understand. He'll explain everything." Yogananda went to the student. The boy said, "These questions you are studying, they won't even come in the exam." Still, he explained them anyway. Yogananda also made an effort to understand. And the next day, the exact same questions came in the exam. That student got excellent marks, and Yogananda barely passed. The point is, logically, there was no way Yogananda could have passed that exam. In his autobiography, he wrote, "How did my great Guru know exactly which chapters to tell me to study? How did he know which student could explain them to me? That too, the very same questions came in the paper." This is a great science of illogical thought. Such things do happen in life. Such an incident also happened with Lord Mahavir. Mahavir was standing in a garden with his disciple Goswami. In front of them, there was a small plant that had just begun to sprout. Lord Mahavir said, "This plant will grow well in 4 or 5 days, and in time, it will also bloom with flowers." But his disciple Goswami did not believe Mahavir's words. Right there in front of Mahavir, he crushed the plant under his foot, saying, "How will this plant grow? How can you say that?" And Goswami left. This was a completely illogical situation. The plant was crushed so harshly, how could it ever grow? But that very evening, there was heavy rainfall, and for 2 to 3 days it continued pouring. When Lord Mahavir returned 3 days later, he saw that the same plant had grown. He called Goswami and said, "Come, see what has happened, brother." In life, not everything happens logically, Many things occur illogically. That is the law of the universe. Sometimes it becomes very difficult to understand it. A similar kind of incident took place in the life of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. In his time, he would go from village to village, spreading the message of righteousness and awakening people, so they could move toward God. He went to one village where no one served him, no one cared about his presence, and no one had any interest in religion or spirituality. After traveling through 3 or 4 such villages, he reached another village where the people served him with great devotion and gave him immense attention. But when he was leaving that village, he said to the people, "May this village become deserted. May you all be displaced and settle elsewhere." The villagers were very upset to hear this. Even the 2 disciples traveling with Guru Nanak Dev Ji questioned him, "Why did you say such a thing?" Guru Nanak replied, "These people are very good-hearted. In the earlier villages we visited, the people were not progressing in any way. They had no interest in God. When these good people are forced to move to those villages, and they will be forced to, either through flood or some calamity, they will carry their goodness with them. By living among those villagers, the goodness will spread, and they too will become better." At first, this may seem completely wrong to think. But that's exactly what happened. A few years later, when Guru Nanak returned to that region, he saw that all those people who had once been uninterested and negative had now become deeply awakened, progressive, and inclined toward God. So, not everything in life is based on logic. Many things occur beyond reasoning, and these too are pathways of growth. Methods that our saints and sages used in their own lives to uplift society. There's yet another such incident. A saint was once hosted as a guest in someone's home. He was served with great devotion and care. The host was confident that the saint would give a wonderful blessing in return, something that would bring them more progress and prosperity. But when the saint departed, he didn't say much, he simply said, "In a little while, everything will change." The host was puzzled, and so was the saint's disciple. The disciple asked, "Why did you say that?" The saint explained, "This person is truly good-hearted. But he is so deeply attached to everything he does, that when anything is taken away from him, he will suffer immensely. At the time of death, God desires that such attachments to family, home, village, should all be released, so that when the time comes to leave the body, this soul can unite with the divine and attain liberation. Otherwise, his life will remain stuck in worldly entanglements. And despite all the good he has done, he would receive no fruit in the form of liberation. So what I said was both appropriate and a divine message. I simply expressed that message in a few words. And that is exactly what happened. His entire family eventually fell apart, and the attachments he once had to his family, home, and surroundings all came to an end. Now, he turned fully toward God and entered a liberated state. He was freed from worldly bondage and attained moksha. The point is, many things happen in life unexpectedly so that we may be guided in the right direction and move closer to God. This is what God truly wants. That we do not remain fully entangled in worldly life, but instead move toward liberation. That is why God manifests many events in our lives, in one form or another. You must be familiar with the story of Lord Rama. Lord Rama supported Sugriv and killed Bali by hiding from him. Now, Bali was so powerful that whoever stood before him, he had a boon that half the strength of his opponent would automatically enter into him. He possessed the strength of 100 elephants, and whenever he fought someone, half of that person's power would instantly be absorbed by him. It was extremely difficult to defeat him. He had become very arrogant. Sugriv could not defeat him on his own. Lord Rama, being an omniscient, divine form, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, acted through a seemingly illogical thought, a non-rational decision, and killed Bali from a hidden position with his arrow. Bali was slain, Sugriv attained victory. And later, the great story of how Lanka was burned unfolded. Now, Lord Rama, being an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, was later born as Lord Krishna. As you know from the scriptures and stories, when Lord Krishna was resting in a forest, a hunter's arrow hit his foot from afar, and soon after, he left his body. Now, Lord Krishna was a divine being. You can understand, if he had wanted to, he could have easily prevented the arrow from hitting him. But he didn't. The hunter approached and said, "Lord, what has happened? Please forgive me. I have committed a great sin." To that, Lord Krishna replied, "You have committed no sin. You are none other than Bali himself. I had killed you by hiding then. Today, that karmic act of mine has been balanced. There is no crime or offense on your part in any way. In this world, there are so many events that you simply cannot understand through logic. They are beyond reasoning. There is no logical explanation for them. Many things in life unfold illogically. For example, you have large farmlands. A beautiful crop has grown, and you expect that it will bring wealth and abundance. But suddenly, in just a couple of days, it rains so heavily that the entire crop is destroyed. This is illogical, yet it happens. This is the X factor of life. Similarly, in Pahalgam, Kashmir, People went out sightseeing, and terrorists attacked and killed them. There is no way to explain that logically. It's all illogical, but this is the X factor, the unknown factor. And because of this unknown factor, everything in life changes. It is very hard to predict what may happen. You must be aware, around 10 to 15 years ago, many people went to Badrinath and Kedarnath for pilgrimage. And suddenly, there was torrential rain, a massive flood came, and entire villages were swept away. Thousands of people lost their lives. No one had thought this would happen before leaving. They had all gone with logical reasoning, with planning. But everything happened illogically, and it was all wiped out. So, in life, you'll often find that many things happen illogically. And it's hard to even talk about them or explain them. People who trade in the stock market, Sensex. They invest their money thinking it will double or triple. They do thorough research, apply every kind of logic. Study the markets from every angle. And then, suddenly, the shares crash completely, and everything is lost. Why does this happen? You cannot explain it through logic. This is irrational, illogical. These things just happen, and they happen often. Let me share an event from my own life. When I was 8 to 10 years old, even the cities were like villages back then. During the day, I used to sit under a peepal tree. It was a completely different time. We lived in great poverty. Many people used to come and sit under that tree. I would also go and sit there. Different kinds of people came. Even a sadhu, the ascetic, used to come and sit there. There was another boy who used to come with me. He was a classmate from school, but from a very wealthy family. One day, the sadhu looked at him and said, "Your life will be full of hardships." Then he looked at me and said, "There will be many transformations in your life." He said many other things too, and then left. After that, I searched a lot for that sadhu. But I could never find him again. About 10 to 15 years later, I saw that same boy again. His condition was miserable. I don't know how all the wealth of his household was lost. But I saw him selling ice cream at a bus stand. You never know when life will shift from logic to illogic. When reason turns into irrationality, it's very hard to say. Under the same tree, you may remember, this is an event from 70 years ago. There were people who used to trade in matka, number betting. Someone would come and hand over 1, 2, 4, or 5 coins. And ask, "What number will come today?" The man would do some quick calculations and say, "Today the number 7 will come." Or, "Tomorrow, it will be 8. Or sometimes he'd say 5. I used to sit and observe all this. One day, when someone came to ask, the man said, "Today the number will be 6. Now, I didn't know anything, I was just a child. But suddenly it came out of my mouth, "No, today 4 will come." I said it unknowingly and walked away. That person bet his money on number 4. And he won a lot of money. The next day, he brought sweets and treats, gave them to me, and said, "Because of your words, I made a big profit." Then he asked me again, "What number will come today?" I told him, and again, he bet on that number. And again he won. This happened 2 or 3 more times. Then I thought, this is not right. If I continue like this, it will spoil my life. So from that day onward, I stopped going to that place altogether. What I'm trying to say is, even if you know nothing, and I truly knew nothing, still, many things in life happen illogically. Things happen in life in such a way that you don't even realize when or how they come to be. So, in summary, I would like to say this. In this world, things do happen logically, but there is a dimension of the illogical, something that occurs in such a way that you don't even become aware of it. Why does it happen? It's very difficult to say. All you can understand is this. A logical person works from the mind, and the mind is constantly changing. But a person who functions from beyond logic acts from a no-mind state. He doesn't act out of thought or deliberation. His actions arise in a way that appears illogical. And that illogicality is actually the state of no mind. A state beyond mind. It is a state of pure consciousness. And whatever emerges from consciousness can never be wrong. That is why the no-mind state always governs the mind. The illogical always stands above the logical. But this doesn't mean we should stop acting logically. We must still make every effort with logic. Do everything thoughtfully and purposefully. And then, pray to God. So that the X factor, the unknown factors of life, do not negatively influence our decisions. Only when we take refuge in God can we truly make progress, experience growth, and live a life that is free from suffering. Therefore, our goal should be to develop our consciousness, to raise it to that higher level, to go beyond the mind, so that we may enter the no-mind state. And when we function from that no-mind state, whatever we do, whichever situation we are in, wherever we may go, those unexpected tragedies of life will not occur. If we remain dependent only on the mind, then nothing significant will happen. And there will always be a chance of mistakes or failures. That is why, before undertaking any great action, first understand the science of breath properly. Ensure that the air is flowing equally through your right and left nostrils. This means that your pranic energy is flowing through the Sushumna Nadi. Only in this state can one say confidently, "Nothing untoward will happen to you." Of course, both logical and illogical things can happen at any time. But if you are in this balanced state, then you will rise above both. You will be aligned with the divine power of God. And whatever decisions you take in life, if blessed by God, nothing accidental or wrong will occur. God's grace will remain with you. And this is the method of living life properly. Before doing anything, take refuge in God. Pray to Him. And align your inner being with your divine destiny. Only then will your actions be met with complete success, with the support of the divine. Thank you.